Welcome everybody to another episode of Fins Nation. I am your host, Louis Sung, and today what I want to discuss is how Tyreek Hill, everybody knows him, everybody knows how great he is. He has been a phenomenal piece of this Miami Dolphins offense. Nobody is questioning what it is that he brings to this team. However, what I want to go ahead and discuss right here is the fact that there are certain individuals in the media at large that seem to be suggesting that Tyreek Hill's greatness somehow subtracts from Tua Tagovailoa. And this is the part of it that bothers me all the time. We keep having this discussion about, is Tyreek Hill taking away from Tua because Tyreek Hill is just that amazing? Is Tyreek Hill making Tua look a lot better than he actually is? Is Tua just not that special without Tyreek Hill being on the field? And I'm going to get into all of that. There are plenty of metrics that I can use to suggest that the truth is that Tyreek Hill and Tua Tagovailoa make a great team, but Tyreek Hill is not the difference between Tua being a great quarterback or just being an average quarterback. I'm going to get into all that, but before that, really quick, just want to go ahead and mention, as always, this show is brought to you by PrizePicks.com. PrizePicks.com is the revolutionary fantasy platform where you can now pick up to 6 different players across professional sports leagues. Whether that's the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, one of each, it's up to you to decide. Just choose whether your chosen player will get more or less than their projected stat. They give you free squares, special Taco Tuesday promos, Flex Friday specials where you can get your money back if you lose, or multiply the amount of money you can normally win. So with offers like that, it's hard to justify not signing up if you are any kind of a fantasy sports fan. So use the promo code 5, that's F-I-V-E, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up. Give us promo code 5, F-I-V-E, go to prizepicks.com, deposit your $100, and let PrizePicks give you $100 of their dollars for you to play with, and get started winning today. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here's what I'm going to go ahead and do for you. This clip that I'm about to play for you was recorded on October 17th on ESPN First Take. Now, immediately, what you all must be thinking is, oh God, what stupid thing was said on First Take this time? Well, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys listen to it because part of me can't believe that somebody would have, to use his own words, the unmitigated gall to say something like this and try to come off as somebody who actually watches the Miami Dolphins play football on a regular basis.
Now, let me tell y'all something right now. I don't know if y'all watching Miami enough. All of these passes, 8 for 19, 20, 30, 40 yards. You just got Tua dipping it 2 yards to him, and he the one taking it to the house. He the one going 20, 30, 40, 50 yards.
What you just listened to, as if you don't already know, is Stephen A. Smith on ESPN First Take, basically giving all of the Tua credit all to Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is the one doing all the work for Tua Tagovailoa. If it were not for Tyreek Hill, he's basically implying that Tua Tagovailoa and this offense would not be nearly as amazing as it is. And I will give him credit on one thing. He is correct about one thing. Tyreek Hill is doing some incredible things for the Miami Dolphins. He is absolutely doing some amazing things, and without him, the offense obviously would not be as good because the fact that he is there creates a level of threat that no other weapon in the offense in the NFL can possibly do. Nobody can do that. Even Jalen Waddle, as much as I love Jalen Waddle, he's not Tyreek Hill. He is amazing at what he does. But to twist that into such a way, and the fact that Shannon Sharpe and Jeff Saturday, who are actual former football players, looked at him and nodded at him and say, oh, yes, you are absolutely right, Stephen A. You're absolutely right. That's what they're basically saying. Like, you're taking away the credit from Tua again, just so you can hand it off to Tyreek Hill. Like, it almost looks like it actively bothers them. It annoys them. It gets under their skin that Tua Tagovailoa is currently the favorite to win NFL MVP. He's at plus 350 odds to win MVP, right above none other than the Kansas City Chiefs' Patrick Mahomes. And mind you, in spite of all that talk about whether or not Tyreek Hill is more deserving of the MVP trophy than Tua, the guy who was the only non-quarterback in that list that they showed on their own show that was even on that top 5 or whatever was the 49ers' Christian McCaffrey. All this talk about how special Tyreek is and what Tyreek is doing, and if it weren't for Tyreek, blah, 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 he's not even on their list to win MVP. It's Christian McCaffrey and the 49ers that is on the list. Are you... It's frustrating. It's truly frustrating. Tyreek Hill's greatness should not and does not subtract from Tua Tagovailoa's greatness. It just adds to it. You look at any quarterback who has themselves a fantastic weapon, and you see how dangerous they are together. And obviously, they're going to benefit each other. You don't think that Jamar Chase, his Joe Burrow's old buddy from LSU, you don't think that Jamar Chase being there benefits Joe Burrow? You don't think that Joe Burrow loves throwing to Jamar Chase, and Jamar Chase ends up getting massive amounts of stats from the simple fact that Joe Burrow finds him all the time? You don't think that helps? Look at what is Matthew Stafford doing right now with the Los Angeles Rams? Puka Nacua, you got Cooper Kupp back. All those things factor in to a quarterback's performance. It amazes me the lengths that people will go to stop Tua from being talked about as a top NFL quarterback. They call him the point guard of the offense. Now, I'll give them this. They've been a little bit consistent with this in that people are talking about Brock Purdy of San Francisco not necessarily being a top quarterback in the NFL, in spite of the fact that his numbers are rather phenomenal. Now, the way that he plays is very much game manager-ish. It is not like that he's running the offense the way that it's designed to do, right? That's exactly what Tua is doing. Now, whose offense is more dynamic? That's a different discussion. If you want to go ahead and credit Mike McDaniel, I might be willing to let you get away with that. If you want to credit Kyle Shanahan, I'll let you get away with that. But to take it away from the quarterbacks altogether, you need to be able to credit these guys. All of a sudden, people are talking about Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions. Jared Goff was on his way out of the NFL up until recently. And now he's had an emergence in Detroit. And suddenly people are saying, oh, Jared Goff has done some amazing things for the Detroit Lions. Yeah, compared to what he was doing before. Compared to what we're used to from him. What changed? They got themselves a better running game. Jahmyr Gibbs, I wish they'd use him more. I think he's going to be something special for them eventually. They've got weapons now. They're getting better. And credit to Dan Campbell for what he's done in Detroit, because he has done a fantastic job getting these guys together. The Detroit Lions are a fantastic football team. And Jared Goff is a part of that. I'm not taking it away from him. I'm not. But there were times that we were looking at Jared Goff and thinking, okay, you're not that special, dude. You're not even good. And it was not even last year. The Dolphins toasted the Detroit Lions with Jared Goff at quarterback. Jared Goff did not know what to do with himself in that game. So we had justification for thinking that there was something just not there with Jared Goff. Okay, fine. Now he's good. But all of a sudden, we're playing this game of, well, the quarterback is just better now. Oh, he's better in a vacuum, all by himself, huh? That's the difference, huh? Because it's Jared Goff and not someone like Tua Tagovailoa. And even then in San Francisco, not even because it's just Brock Purdy. Maybe Brock Purdy is just better than anybody wants to give him credit for. Maybe Tua is better than anybody gives him credit for. There was a metric that was shared on the 3 yards per carry Discord server, OnlyFins. It's a metric that is shown. It gets around Twitter every once in a while. And basically, it shows how efficient. I'm putting it in very, very layman's terms. If you want more details on how that metric actually works, I would suggest you go seek out Hussam Patel of the Scouting Combine, who also works with the 5 Reasons Sports Network. He can explain it to you a lot better. He's on Twitter. All you have to look up is at Hussam Patel. Very easy to find him, but he's the one who showed the metric in the first place. Hussam basically broke it down in a way that said, here is Tua Tagovailoa's efficiency when Tyreek Hill is on the field. And it's really, really good. And then it shows you Tua's efficiency when Tyreek Hill is not on the field. And oh my God, you thought it couldn't get much better. Tua without Tyreek Hill on the field, and granted, that's not as often as you would think, but there's a significant amount of snaps where Tyreek Hill has to take a play off just because he's cramping or he has to get an IV or whatever the case may be. It's not like he's never not on the field. When Tua does not have Tyreek on offense, you would think his efficiency would drop, right? It is so far away from every other quarterback in the NFL, including himself with Tyreek on the field, that you must be, it almost makes you think, is Tua actually better without Tyreek? Obviously the answer is no, but you look at the way that it's mapped out, and you can't help but question, okay, so maybe Tua is just really, really good. It's not just the fact that Tyreek is there, because other teams know when Tyreek is missing. It's not like they're looking around and seeing, I don't see number 10, he must be hiding behind the quarterback or something. That's not how that works. Tyreek is a really big part of this offense, but he is not the extent of the offense. Tua is the reason why this offense works. You throw in Mike White, it doesn't work as efficiently. You throw in Teddy Bridgewater last season, it does not work as efficiently. You throw in Skylar Thompson, it does not work as efficiently. This offense is designed to work specifically and perfectly for everything that Tua Tagovailoa does well. Now, just so I can make sure that nobody thinks I'm just spewing the same kind of nonsense that Stephen A was talking about, just a pro-Tua kind of point of view, let me go ahead and just share some numbers with you guys, because everybody loves numbers, right? I'm sure ESPN loves numbers, right? That's all they ever go to, because they look at these numbers and think, oh, well, there must be something that we can look at here. I'm just going to go ahead and read this off to you guys real quick here, because I want you guys to understand what it is that we're looking at here. So, passing yards per attempt, right? Passing yards per attempt. So this includes everything. This includes YAC. This includes YAC being, of course, yards after the catch for anybody who may be starting to get into Dolphins fandom. I always want to make sure everyone is included. So yards per attempt, that means all the attempts that are made. Tua is throwing 9.5 yards per attempt. That is far and away more than any other quarterback in the NFL right now. Even the ones that just threw one bomb and said, that's it, that I'm done for the year. The only one who's in second place right now is Matthew Stafford, who I just mentioned before, at 7.4 yards per attempt. And again, I remind you, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, he has weapons over there. Are they suddenly going to take away that from him because he has Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp? Or are we going to look at Matt Stafford and say, oh, that's pretty interesting. I wonder if he's gotten better at something. Okay, whatever. Now let's continue this. So where does Tua rank in air yards, how far passes are traveled in the air before they are caught? I'm getting all these stats, mind you, from a website called Fantasy Pros, and I guarantee you one thing. If they are a fantasy-based website, they are going to be on point with their numbers, because fantasy is all they do. Numbers is literally all they do. Matthew Stafford is the one who's in first place with how far passes are traveled in the air before they're caught. So, second place is Kirk Cousins. Third place, there he is, Tua Tagovailoa. Right there in third place. You know who's in fourth? Jared Goff, right underneath him. Interesting. How about this one? Air yards per attempt. Everybody loves this one, right? Air yards per attempt. How far are the passes traveled in the air before being caught? Now, this is per every time he throws the football, right? This is per every time every attempt he's made, whether it's caught or not. So you have, and granted, again, this is something where you have to look at it with a grain of salt. In first place is Mike White. But Mike White only threw 3 passes so far this year. So he had that one bomb to Robbie Chosen, and after that, it was the end of the discussion. So now what about, where was Tua on this list? Technically, he's number 3, but number 2 is Brian Hoyer, who's only thrown 10 passes all year, so that doesn't count. So of any quarterback that actually qualifies, Tua is in first place. He's got 5.3 air yards per attempt. Brock Purdy is right behind him at 5.2, and right behind him is Jared Goff at 5.1. So, you see all that. Great. Fantastic. Now, how about this? Let me throw some more numbers at you here. Deep ball passing, right? This is all the passing attempts that travel 10-plus yards. So, let's take a look at this real quick, okay? Now, when we say deep ball passing, this is not, let me emphasize, not just a play that went for 30, 40, 50-plus yards. This is not Tua dipping it off, as Stephen A put it, 2 yards to Tyreek Hill, and then Tyreek runs it all the way into the end zone. This is how far did the ball travel in the air before getting to the wide receiver's hands. Want to know who's in first place? It's Tua. He has 76 passes that have traveled 10-plus yards. Who's behind him? Matt Stafford at 70. Let's take a look at 20-plus yards. Okay, 20-plus yards thrown. Jared Goff is actually in first place. He has 29. Tua has 25. So he's tied for second with C.J. Stroud of the Houston Texans. Okay? So he's in second on that one. How about 30 yards? Okay? 30 yards thrown in the air. Stafford is in first place with 11, and Tua is tied for second with Jalen Hurts of the Eagles, who we're about to face off against this upcoming Sunday. 40 yards. 40-yard passes. So that means the ball has traveled 40 yards in the air before landing in Tyreek or whoever else's hands. Guess who's in first place, ladies and gentlemen? It's Tua. He's thrown 6 passes so far all season that were completed for they traveled in the air 40-plus yards and then landed in his wide receiver's hands. 6 in second place, and this is a long list for tied for second place. Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Russell Wilson, and Derek Carr all have 5. And how about this? This is the big one, right? 50-plus yards the ball traveled before landing in the hands of a wide receiver. Tied for first place, Russell Wilson, Jalen Hurts, and Tua Tagovailoa. That's it. So you're asking us to believe that Tyreek Hill is the only reason why Tua is getting all these numbers. That Tyreek Hill, if it weren't for him, Tua would just be a dinking and dunking quarterback who, and actually the accusation is that he is just a dinking and dunking quarterback. And the fact that we're even playing this game is so infuriating to me that it does not, I cannot express it, how upset it makes me to see how hard people are trying to take away the credit for Tua. And this is going to be the most damning thing of all. I'm going to read this off to you now. This is from Pro Football Reference, okay? So they're pretty good with their numbers as well. Advanced receiving. You ready for this? This is the thing that really just blows this whole argument out of the water. Okay? Tyreek Hill is just taking the ball for himself and doing all the work on his own. He's the one who's just catching a 2-yard dip from Tua and running 50 yards down the field. I'm not saying that he hasn't done it, but to say that that's all he does is just so factually incorrect. Advanced receiving. It's under YBC. Total yards that a pass traveled in the air before being caught. Yards before caught by the wide receiver. There's a top 5 list of how many yards that a pass has been before the pass gets caught. Justin Jefferson of the Minnesota Vikings is in 5th place with 389 yards that the ball traveled before he caught it. Puka Nacua of the Rams, the rookie, 414 yards. A.J. Brown, 3rd place, 438 yards. Stephon Diggs of the Buffalo Bills, 462 yards. And now here it is. Before the ball was even caught, in first place is Tyreek Hill with 488 yards of total yards that the ball traveled in the air before he ended up catching it. Really? So Tyreek Hill is doing all the work? He's literally caught more passes in the air before it gets to him, more than any other wide receiver in the NFL. He's in first place. And just so anybody kind of gets an idea, yards per catch per reception, yards before the catch per reception, Tyreek is actually in first place for that too. He's at 11.6. So make of that what you will, ladies and gentlemen. I think that the case has been very safely made. Tyreek Hill obviously adds a lot to this offense, and I'm not trying to come away and take anything away from him. He has done a phenomenal job for this offense, and I want him to honestly retire as a Miami Dolphin. He has been electric. He is a big part of why this offense works. But do not take away what Tua has done just to go ahead and make it all about Tyreek Hill. Tua is a big part of this offense, and I'm hopefully, eventually, as the weeks continue, and as the MVP odds continue to change, and they'll probably throw Patrick Mahomes up above him every once in a while. Like the moment Tua has a bad game, they're going to throw Mahomes right back into first place for MVP betting. As soon as Tua gets to the point where you can no longer deny that he is something special, and I hope and pray that eventually that will happen. I cannot wait to see how they justify it next, because they just keep digging their hole deeper and deeper until they've reached the point of no return when it comes to their own credibility. That's going to be it for this show. Thank you all so much for listening. If you have not already done so, make sure you go to prizepicks.com, use the promo code 5, that's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit. And while you're at it, go ahead and do yourself a favor and pick the over on Tua's passing yards and the over on Tyreek Hill's receiving yards. Because more often than not, you're going to win on that bet. They're just that good of a duo. All right, that's going to be it. We will see you all Friday for another episode of Fins Nation.